Warning. This show features dark subjects which may be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Chaos Jar. I'm your announcer, the loud, obnoxious one, J Wes Secord. Hey. Then we have our host, the big bag of facts, Bad Ben.
Hey.
And as always, we are joined by our good friend, A.T. Token. He's dying right now. Yeah! Oh, and we're back.
And he's back. He came back from overseas.
Yeah, oh, right. We had a gag about that. That's right.
Let's have help for a while.
Oh, God.
They sent him home for a little while. Just a little while.
Before we start, we're going to do the house cleaning. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, all the jizzly jazz. And don't look at me like that.
Jizzly jazz.
And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BAChaosJar. And if you want, you can follow me on Twitter at, I'm glad you asked, underscores and ellipses. And I will answer any random questions you give me. You can also follow us on Facebook at Pandora's Jar Podcast. I know, it's still Pandora's Jar. Stop bugging us. And last but not least, what? Oh, yeah, we have to wait a year. Jeez, that's crazy.
But it's been up and running for 6 months, so we only have to wait another 6 more months.
Yeah!
And then I can change it.
And lastly, if you want to, be a patron, you can go and patronize us at,
We're not being saints, Jesus.
Saints of something.
Patreon.com/ChaosJarPodcast.
Patronize.
Technically, that's actually the appropriate term.
That's true.
People don't realize patronize and patronize are two different things.
Yeah, but it was meant to be a subservient term. People don't take it well.
Yeah, but they're patronizing us, so honestly, I think we're good.
Here's the money. Just be happy.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, this will all be in the show notes, so you can ignore our crap and just look down there if you don't want to.
And we're on YouTube now.
Oh yes, we're on YouTube now on Chaos Jar. I think it's just Chaos Jar now. Yeah, on YouTube. Check out our YouTube, which is part of the subscribe and the liking and the thing.
No, we're the one with the logo, not the one that has like some weird box being held up, because there's apparently two of them, and one is just random videos that have been put together, and the photo is a guy just holding a box.
Yeah, like a boom box.
No, it's like a box in his hand. It's so weird. I found it and I was like, "What is this?"
It's the term.
Why didn't he go with Pandora's box? That would have.
I have no idea.
Because he's holding a box.
But he's holding like a box of something like. It was weird. It's not even like a logo. It's just his hand holding a box as if he picked something up from the store and was like, "Is this what you're looking for?"
Yeah, and it's called Chaos Jar.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not even a fucking jar, dude.
Yeah.
You should at least be like a mason.
Yeah. But anyway, what's going in the jar today?
So today we're going to talk about Blair Adams.
Like the movie The Witch?
No, I wish that was it. The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Adams Witch Project.
Blair Adams Witch Project. Sounds like you're going in for a horror movie, but then you end up watching a movie about a daredevil.
It's actually some guy in high school who realized that Wiccan was his proper path.
I want this movie. Why do we keep making movies I enjoy?
We need to do this in the overflow.
And of course, Danny DeVito.
Yes. Now you take this hair. And
Oh God, we gotta. Fuck! I keep forgetting. We should get together and write that script.
Oh my God! You take this hair and you put it into Book Box.
And then out pops out Mike Tyson.
Yep.
I don't think that's quite right. Okay, I think we hit all our inside jokes in this one single moment.
Almost. Let's put it back on the bookshelf.
The bookshelf.
All right, so before we talk about Blair Adams himself, let's talk about the Pacific Highway border crossing, since this has a huge amount to do with this.
I'm glad it does, because if you didn't say that at night, I would have been fairly confused.
Yes. Well, this is where we just talk about border crossings, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some weird immigration lead up.
Yeah.
Did I get running?
Well, that's why we sent you overseas.
Just got back.
So
Men walk in and take him away.
Hey, no!
All right. Now our new friend,
Yeah.
Fatty McFatfats.
We're just hitting all the tokens.
John Johnson's gonna take my place.
John Johnson.
Nice.
This is Buck McCock.
My God, we gotta stop.
All right.
I have so many things in my head now. Let's save that for the overflow.
All right. So, the Pacific Highway border crossing connects the cities of Surrey, BC, and Blaine, Washington. So it's obviously the crossing between Canada and the U.S.
I'm sorry, Blaine, Washington?
Blaine, Washington.
Oh, Blaine.
Yeah, Blaine. Not Blame. Blame Washington, but...
I was honestly I was actually really excited for that gag. I thought that was going to be funny.
It would have been amazing.
Blame Washington. Always blame Washington.
So, the Pacific Highway, which is an extension of the border crossing here, runs from San Diego, California to Vancouver, British Columbia. The crossing opened in 1913 as a dirt road alternative to the Peace Arc border crossing. So there was originally a whole other crossing to come across, and then somebody made a dirt road to go across.
Is this like a smuggling thing that just became legit?
I have no idea.
I'm sorry, I have to just pull back for a second. I love you almost said BC, but then figured our audience does not understand what the letters BC mean.
Yeah.
Before Christ.
In 1913 BC.
Vancouver, BC. Before it was Vancouver.
So this particular section of the crossing actually became more popular than the Peace Arc border crossing in 1923 when they decided to pave it. So for the longest time they were just driving over this dirt road.
So no one's bothering to cover it or anything. It's just a dirt road, and they're like, you know what? I think a day in Canada would be great.
Well, when the crossing did first open as a dirt road in 1913, their border patrol officers would operate out of tents. So they were just standing out there in tents being like, yep, there goes one.
Wait,
yep, there you go.
Paid to camp.
Yep, basically.
It's funny, most of them probably didn't even actually do the job. They were just like Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
Just live it in nature and be like, this is a good day. I like this place.
So eventually they built wooden structures to house these people, and then those were replaced with Tudor Revival style buildings in 1935.
They built them themselves.
Yes, out of the wood around them from the dirt road.
Yeah, exactly, because they were Ron Swansons.
So a new facility was built and has been in use since 1986. So that's essentially the history of this little road. It became more popular, and this is where all the commercial traffic goes over, like all the trucks and stuff.
Yeah.
The Peace Arc border crossing connects the same cities, so it's literally half a mile apart from each other. But is currently prohibited from having commercial vehicles on it in order to keep the visitation traffic flowing properly and to not interfere, because it's now a binational park, so it's protected.
Sexuality is necessary.
Yeah, I didn't need to speculate on that. So like I said, it's less than a mile from each other. Originally, before the crossing was built, the border was just congested with Canadian and U.S. businesses and houses. So basically, they were just all these little communities on either side of the border. and there was nobody regulating them. They just crossed how they wished.
So you just have these two townships that were just basically the same township going back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh,
pharmaceuticals. Here's some strong beer.
They're like they're just like this weird pseudo state between Canada and the U.S.
Yeah. So it was kind of weird because there was like all these houses and buildings all over the place, and all of them were demolished when it became a binational park. On the U.S. side, they built a substantial brick border, like a brick border station in 1936, then replaced it in the 1980s, then again in 2009. The Canadian side built a wooden station in 1929, then replaced it with a concrete station in 1952, which was then expanded and renovated all the way until 2010 when they just replaced it with a whole new border station.
The Canadian side sounded so homely until the concrete showed.
But what I love is that the Canadians were the ones that first built their first station, because the U.S. built the brick one in 1936, but the Canadians built a wooden one in 1929. So the Canadians were like, "We really gotta watch this, eh?" Like,
we just and like he just nails in a couple of like planks of wood in the ground.
You stop here.
Yeah, it's the same guy who came to Cutterton Island there. To tell
Clipperton Island, yeah.
To tell the Mexicans the British are just leaving.
Yeah, there's a war happening.
Yeah. Oh, how's it going, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we should really put this fence up, eh?
You really should put a fence up.
Yeah. Duck. Now I knocked the wood and
that was fantastic. I love that the hammer and the wood have an accent.
That wasn't entirely intentional.
How? Oh my lord, that was great. That's what Canadian construction sites sound like.
Oh, that's the cement machine. Yo. Doing some grilling.
Well, that's what that
Jackhammer.
Okay.
Stupid idea.
Now that we've addressed the Canadian construction and the border crossings, I love that on the other side of the border it sounds normal. Like,
Canada is black.
We're just cartoon characters.
Apparently. So let's talk about Blaine Adams.
Okay, please do.
So his real name is Robert Dennis Blair. Sorry, not Blaine Adams, Blair Adams. So Robert Dennis Blair Adams, but he went by Blair, because many people do with their middle names.
Okay.
J Wes.
I wasn't complaining.
Yeah. So he was born on December 28th, 1964 in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada.
Oh, we got a Canadian on this.
Yep.
Woo! We don't have Canadians often.
There's not much known about his known about his younger life. He did fall into like drugs, and he had a lot of alcohol problems in his youth. But we're catching up with him in 1996, and at this point, he's known as being a fun-loving and cheerful guy who loved being around his friends and loved to be surrounded by people, which most recovering addicts do have that personality. Mm-hmm. But at this point, he's also been about 2 years sober. He recently stopped attending AA meetings, even though they had helped him recover from his alcoholism, because he felt that he didn't really require it. He works as a foreman at a construction company as well. like I said, his life hasn't always been. Yeah, I get it.
He's a Canadian
Construction guy. It just works so well together. Like
that was unintentional, and that's amazing.
It all just flew. Like, we all just circled back.
Oh my god! I don't think I breathe. Like,
but he's the foreman, so he just watches it.
he just listens to it.
He's hammering.
That's putting, into the beams, yeah.
You mean ribbiting?
Yeah, that's the one.
I think I'm just so tired out from the knock, knock, knock. So, things seem to be going pretty well for Blair until the late spring of 1996. Around this time that it rolled around, Blair's mom, Sandra Edwards, said that there was a shift in her son's behavior. He suddenly started to have like mood swings and seemed to be growing paranoid, and he was often really irritable and short-tempered. A lot of his friends were also noticing that he was exhibiting these behaviors as well, that he was kind of shifting out and becoming a little more paranoid. To quote Sandra, something was obviously very much the matter. He hadn't been sleeping well. Something was wrong. I asked him numerous times what was wrong, and he said, I don't think I should tell you about it. To this day, I don't know what it is. End quote. So Sandra wasn't the only one noticing the change. He was showing behavior at his workplace, and many of his friends said that he would talk about someone trying to harm him. So he had a little bit of like a fear for his life. So on July 5th, 1986, he withdrew most of the money from his bank account and cleaned out a safety deposit box of over $6,000 and a few more $1,000 worth of jewelry and gold coins and gold bars. He also took a lot of more valuable possessions like gold and platinum. So he had like gold and platinum coins. He took this all out of his boxes, and 2 days later, on Sunday, July 7th, 1996, he hopped on a ferry from Victoria, BC in his Chevette, and he was going to Seattle, Washington. Blair was flagged by immigration officials, and they suspected him of being a drug dealer due to the large amount of cash and valuables on him. He also lied to the officials, stating that he had no criminal record. However, he did have criminal convictions for charges on drugs and assaults. He was denied... Pardon?
Could have said he'd go gamble.
Yeah, that's my point, right? But he wasn't forthcoming with the fact that I do have drug convictions and stuff. So they thought he was a drug dealer, so he was denied entry and sent back to BC.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah. So once back, he...
British Columbia? Is that what BC stands for?
British Columbia.
Okay, British Columbia.
Yeah. Okay.
So once back, he quit his job and collected his final paycheck. He visited some friends that afternoon, and then he purchased a round-trip airline ticket to Frankfurt, Germany for $1,600. He paid for it all in cash.
Not suspicious.
So Blair had an old flame that he had been communicating with who lived in Frankfurt. They had met when he was working in Germany for his stepfather's construction company the year previously. However, his old girlfriend was not expecting him, and in fact, Blair had told her that he feared that most of his co-workers from Germany would try to harm him if they came back to Canada or if he returned to Germany. So she wasn't expecting him to come at all. There were no plans for them to meet up. So after this, he went and visited his mother. Sandra stated that her son was even more evasive of questioning and would give no information as to what was causing him to be so erratic. She feared the worst, but he left her house and made his way to a friend's house. His friend could see that he was obviously really in distress, and he told his friends that he was very much afraid of someone trying to harm him. He again wouldn't give much information. He departed from his friend's house and then refunded the ticket. Like the ticket to Germany. So early on July 9th, the Canadian Border Control officers found Blair attempting to cross the Pacific Highway border crossing on foot. It was dark, and Blair was found with a bunch of scratches and stuff because he's been out in the fucking bush trying to cross over this border.
Wasn't expecting a bunch of dudes camping.
No. And because of these cuts and stuff that he actually was to like match the profile of a suspect that had tried to get across in a stolen car. So they had no evidence that linked him to the stolen car, but he was denied access again and was sent back home. However, this didn't deter Blair as long as he for long at all. He just abandoned his own car at the Vancouver International Airport and then rented a Nissan Altima and attempted for the second time in this day to cross the border. This time, he was successful and made his way to Seattle, Washington. Here, he purchased a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C. And what's curious about this is that a round trip would have been cheaper at $350 to $400 US, but the one-way ticket that he bought was $778.
Jesus. What?
Yeah. I have no idea. I don't think it was first class. It's just the one-way ticket was way more expensive.
That seems absurd.
Yeah. So he boarded the flight anyways. The next morning, July 10th, he arrives in Washington, D.C. and immediately rents another car, a Toyota Camry, from the Dooley's airport at 6:45 a.m. So he basically just went on a flight all night. From the airport, he backed into another vehicle in Troy, Virginia. So he drove to Virginia from here. He causes minor damage to the other car, and the other motorist trades information with him before they part ways. The motorist later informs detectives that Blair seemed nice, but in a hurry. So 7 hours after leaving D.C., he arrives in Knoxville, Tennessee. He traveled about 500 miles, or 800 kilometers. Blair makes his way into a gas station at about 5:30 p.m., and complains to the clerk that the keys to his Camry are not working. The clerk calls Gerald Sapp from the Interstate Repair Service, so a tow truck driver, to help Blair out. It's discovered that Blair has been trying to use the keys from the Nissan Altima that he abandoned in the Seattle, Washington, one. Yeah, he's got the wrong key. Instead of the Camry keys. The clerk and Blair begin searching the grounds and the store for the other key. Gerald suggests to Blair to check his pockets. Quote, I asked him to look in his pockets. I said, if you drove this thing up here, you must have another key in your pockets. But he wouldn't look. So I thought he was nuts, and he was bound and determined that the key he had was the key he needed for that car. End quote. So he's completely convinced that this Nissan key is the Camry key.
Sorry, I've been quiet way too long. Which is not me. I've just been kind of like, where the fuck is this going? Like, I'm like, is it gonna... Are we getting pulled in to some sort of gag story where you're like, oh, this will be hilarious. And then we get to the end, and just as he pulls the gun on the president, he goes, bah, and then it says bang, and then it's like, ah, fuck you, Wes!
No, unfortunately not. This is a real story. This all really happened.
Some people,
it's just
weird.
And it just gets weirder and weirder.
Oh, see, none of this is weird to me. That's the weird
It just
part.
feels like it's a joke.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just, I'm trying to figure out where the punchline is gonna be. Like, not joke-wise, but like, where is it going? Yeah.
So, okay, well, after Blair refused to look in his pockets for the other key, he kept pressing that this key is the key to the Camry. So Sapp towed the Camry to an auto shop and gave Blair a ride to the Fairfield Inn, which is like it's now a motel chain that's owned by Marriott.
Oh, okay.
Tika Hartsfield, who worked the front desk that day.
What a hell of a name!
Yeah, I know.
Tika Hartsfield. That's like the name you see in a steampunk. Like this.
When I saw it, I was like, "This is a fantastic name." Like,
you picture a dude in a top hat and like little curly mustache, and then he has those weird like overly steampunk spectacles with the 40 different magnifying glass. Exactly.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. But, you can just put on a top hat. It was hilarious.
he looked like Bernard.
Oh my god!
So
he said it. I avoided that joke, and he said it. So I feel actually pretty good about myself.
So, quote, So a quote from Tika here. The best way to describe him would be paranoid. He was just very nervous, agitated, expecting someone to come in on him, and even though there wasn't anybody there, I don't know who he was looking for, but he was waiting for somebody to walk in for him. End quote. So Blair spent the next 40 minutes entering and exiting the lobby of this motel. Just coming in and out. And then finally, he purchased a room at 7:37 p.m. He paid with a US $100 bill and exited the lobby before he could get his change, which totaled almost $50 US. He never entered his room. July 11th, construction workers show up on site at a parking lot being built a half a mile from this Fairfield Inn. The parking lot was for another Fairfield Inn being built in the city, and it was under construction. It's 7:30 a.m. Yeah, they're just going to keep popping up everywhere now.
As I've always said, Starbucks are they're town herpes.
Yeah. Once one pops up, it's all over.
It's just spreading every city.
And they're $5 coffees.
God, Starbucks. It's a disease.
So these construction workers are, American construction workers, so their tools sound normal. And it's 7:30 a.m., so they got their Starbucks coffee, and they spot a sleeping squatter. Now, this isn't uncommon because obviously it's a construction company, it's under construction, it's out of the weather, so people will sleep there. So they just go and shoot this vagrant off.
Yeah.
And then they realize that it's actually a dead body.
Oh.
They've just discovered the body of Blair Adams.
What?
He is... Well done.
Thank you.
So he is naked from the waist down. His shirt is torn open. His pants, shoes, and socks are nearby. His socks are turned inside out, and one of his shoes is under his head, kind of like a pillow.
Was he...
Any damage to the body?
I'm actually going to go through that, but what's interesting is also scattered around is the key to the Camry that he was missing from the night before. It was found roughly 10 feet from his body. Roughly $4,000 in U.S., Canadian, and German currency.
Okay.
There was also a small sack containing maps and travel receipts, along with a fanny pack containing 5 ounces of gold bars, gold and platinum coins, some jewelry, more keys, and a pair of sunglasses. The gold and jewelry totaled roughly $2,000.
I was just going to talk about the sunglasses.
Yeah.
You kept going.
The sunglasses.
Sunglasses?
I have no idea.
$5.
He bought it at a gas station while he was looking for his key to the Camry. So the autopsy showed that Blair died of sepsis stemming from an abdominal perforation. So he got hit really hard in the gut, and it ripped open his stomach, and he went into septic shock.
I know what a perforation is.
I'm just elaborating for everybody listening.
Yeah. For the audience.
Yeah. So,
no one else.
he had many cuts. He had many cuts and abrasions over his body, and he had an obvious hard shot to the abdomen that had been delivered. And he also had wounds on his forehead showing that he'd been hit with a blunt object, and it had cut him. So possibly a club or a crowbar. More likely a crowbar because of the ends being sharp.
Yeah.
Many of the wounds showed that Blair fought back his attacker. So it's also believed that Blair was sexually assaulted because there was a huge amount of evidence of this during the attack.
I totally guessed that.
Yeah.
You didn't hear me because Token was talking at the same time, but I totally asked, was he raped? Because you said he was pantsless. Completely,
yeah.
And his shirt was ripped open. I've never heard any situation where that didn't lead to rape.
Yeah. Also, his pants being thrown, I just have a feeling that that's they ripped, the socks being inside out, just ripped them off of him,
yeah.
Fuck these socks.
Honestly, I probably shouldn't be this proud that I figured that out.
Yeah.
I'm just, hey, look, a text message.
So, there's also no signs of drugs or alcohol in Blair's system. There was remnants of meat, shrimp, and lettuce in his stomach, showing that he had eaten after exiting the Fairfield Inn. So when he left the hotel, he went somewhere and got food.
Shrimp.
Yeah, shrimp and meat. and lettuce.
And lettuce. Actually, I love lettuce.
So there was reports from a local truck stop that Blair had entered and had a conversation with a trucker there before heading off to Cracker Barrel for food nearby. At the Cracker Barrel, two of the waitresses did say that Blair came in and had a conversation with another gentleman and that they both left together.
Sorry. The name Cracker Barrel from the very beginning has always made me laugh.
I know.
I've seen them before, but it's just like, welcome to the Cracker Barrel.
Were they for the white people?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's just weird sounding. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just the name of it. Like, I've never been to one either.
It's like, it's
brand of cheese.
Yeah, but they also, like, I think they're all owned by the same people, and they have, like, a restaurant that has, like, burgers and things like that. It's not a high-end restaurant, but it's still a half-decent restaurant, kind of like Denny's with, like, you know.
The point I'm getting at is just the name Cracker Barrel sounds so weird.
And they're all over the South. Like,
like, I didn't even realize there was a cheese. Like, I never even look at my cheese.
Yeah.
Like, it's just in your face.
Yeah, exactly.
So, these leads about the trucker and the guy that he was talking to really went nowhere because they couldn't find any extra information on it. And there's no CCTV footage of this, which is weird because it's still 1996. You'd think that they would have cameras in a Cracker Barrel or something, right? I understand the truck stop, but yeah. So the only
snorted. Yes, shut up.
So the only foreign DNA found on Blair was actually a single strand of long hair found in Blair's fist. So he ripped out a long hair, apparently. Authorities logged the DNA, but nothing ever came of it because they have to try and match it against databases, and if the person never commits another crime, then they have nothing. They couldn't find any sightings of Blair prior to the discovery of the body. Though there was reports from a security guard nearby, working in a business close to the parking lot construction, he heard an abrupt scream that he believed was a woman's voice around 3:30 a.m. It came from the general direction of the parking lot. So,
now, if I remember correctly, hair doesn't actually have too much DNA.
No, but the root might have it.
Yeah.
If it got ripped out, you could rip the root out too.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
Yeah, because it's hair is mostly just protein anyways, right? So a theory is that perhaps Blair had hired a prostitute, maybe that guy that he ran into at Cracker Barrel or the trucker or whatever, had like a prostitute, and it was accompanied by a pimp, and they had intended to rob him. However, when he put up a fight, they ended up killing him. This would explain the woman's scream that was heard around 3:30. However, if you were planning on robbing him and you accidentally killed him or even intentionally killed him, why would you leave all that money? There was $6,000, like almost $6,000 worth of stuff just around him.
Like, wasn't there even more than that? Like,
there's $4,000 in currency and then another $2,000.
Okay, yeah, it was $6,000. Okay.
So that kind of gets rid of that whole thing. Plus, what about the rape and stuff like that, right? Like the fact that they really, really believe that he was sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
One of the things that they believe, like that they put forward, was that the prostitute had been hired, and maybe Blair had rented another car, or the pimp had brought a car, and they were having sex in the back of the car, and something happened, and he fell out and then got hit by the car, and that's how he got the injury on his head, because he hit the end of the car, and then the stomach thing, he got run over by it. But to fall out of the car and all, like, it's just a whole weird amount of circumstances, and it's
especially because how would the pants get thrown?
Yeah,
in the direction it did. If
just ditch it all out here.
Don't even look at that $6,000.
How hard you gotta get hit for your socks?
to be hit off of you and thrown inside out. Like,
oh wait, we're not in Kansas.
Though he is Canadian, so he still retains the business.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
How hard do you have to be to lose your sock?
Oh my god. So another theory is that perhaps Blair, in his paranoia, accidentally attacked somebody who he felt was a threat coming after him. And this resulted in him being killed but accidentally because the guy was fighting back or whatever. So maybe the defense wounds aren't actually defense wounds. They're him attacking the guy and the guy throwing him back.
The other person.
Yeah.
Explain the pants, though.
Or the
again,
sexual assault.
This doesn't pan out because despite them not taking the valuables, because they wouldn't have been there to rob him, they would have just ditched out of there. Why was everything scattered? And why was he half naked? What about the evidence of sexual assault? It just really throws this all into this whole loop.
What about two separate encounters? One for the injury, one for the sexual encounter.
What kind of sexual assault are we looking like?
So
penetration?
They don't have it confirmed as sexual assault, but they believe that he was like penetrated by somebody. And his mother had stated before that he had relationships with men before in his life, so maybe the prostitute he hired was a male instead of a female. But then what about the woman's scream that the guy heard? Was it unrelated? Like, yeah. So they started looking into the former coworkers that Blair said would be harming him, because he had stated to numerous people that he felt that they would come and get him or whatever. When looking into his former cohorts in Germany, they stated that Blair was often very confrontational on the job, and that they described him as a troublemaker and would initiate fights, like fist fights. So, yeah. So Blair's family is very confused. They could have understood him going to Germany where he had a connection, but as far as they knew, he didn't know anybody in Tennessee. Why was he headed to Tennessee? Where was he going from there after that? Because it wasn't obvious that Tennessee was his final thing. He was actually just stranded in Tennessee when his car key wasn't the proper car key.
And also, why was the proper car key just show up next to his body?
Yeah.
In his pocket.
So
he's just he's slowly dying. He pulls it out and goes, "Oh, this is
God fucking damn it!"
I like the idea that he's just more subtle about. Oh, this is embarrassing. You ever seen This Is the End?
Yeah.
What is it? Fuck. I already forgot his name. Michael Cera, and he's just like, has anyone seen my fucking phone? He's like, gets pierced by a fucking headlight, and he's like, oh, this is embarrassing, it was in my pocket.
Yeah. So, Sandra, his mother, did come forward a few years ago, saying that it's very possible that Blair was headed to the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia, which began on July 19th. And that is actually... Those Olympics are actually something they're going to have an episode of their own, because something huge happened at these Olympics, so... But...
It was him!
Yeah. Well, I can kind of spoil it a little bit, because there was a bombing at the 1996 Summer Olympics, and this kind of runs into my own theory of, what if he was part of the bombing? Like,
he just got taken out by one of his cohorts along the way.
Or what if he was having a premonition and was like, somebody's trying to kill me, and then he realized, no, somebody's trying to stop the 1996 Olympics. I gotta go save them.
Someone's out to get me. They know. And then he's trying to save the world. And oh my god.
Either way,
but first I'll have to stop in Pascagoula, Missouri, Mississippi.
Pascagoula sounds like a cryptid in itself.
So, police believe that it was a sex-motivated crime, for certain, because of this whole thing.
Because it bombed.
Yeah.
Terrorism.
So, they just haven't received any usable leads or tips.
Double down. The terrorist rape.
No double penetration.
They're actually... So the evidence of sexual assault is just them ripping the bomb out of his ass. With
2 hands.
So We shouldn't make fun of him because poor guy got killed. But
I sorry.
Yeah, it's great. We're both just fucking contributing, and then I'm like, we really should like think of the victim a little more. Like,
it's fair. I guess it's. I'm not used to hearing the story of a victim.
Yeah,
like they're usually an asshole by the end, and then I get like, and from what I could tell, it sounds like he was kind of an asshole.
Yeah, in the end, he just kind of lost it, eh? So,
yeah, but who of us hasn't been an asshole? He just lost at the end.
No, I meant like not just him losing his mind, but like they're talking to his coworkers.
Yeah, that he would initiate fights and stuff like that. Yeah. So the case remains cold unless somebody comes forward with evidence, but it's been 24 years. So,
whoa, that's like 24 years.
Yeah. So, it's an ice cold case, and the police have already said that they don't think that there's any way they're ever going to solve it unless they get one more lead. A sad bit of news that the authorities did collect hair sample from Gerald Sapp, the tow truck driver, the one that was like, you should check your fucking pocket.
Yeah.
And that caused a lot of turmoil in Sapp's life to the point that he quit his job because even though he was never officially a suspect, just because people were like, well, he had something to do with it. Like, so they didn't want to take any rides from him or get their car towed by him because he murdered that other guy. Like,
God, that's really unfortunate.
Yep. So
unless he did murder him, and then in which case, fuck him. But
I said, check your pocket.
He was just really frustrated by that.
So mad he killed and raped him.
Here it is!
I've got it right here, you fucker. That's it.
It's like, I'm going to show you how to properly insert a key with my dick in your ass.
How about we unlock your ass? Oh, that poor guy.
You're the Honda Civic and I'm the key.
It was a Toyota Camry. That's it. You sure about that? You sure about that? Like you were sure you didn't have the fucking key?
It's in my pocket. How embarrassing. But seriously, that was a really shitty thing that happened to him.
Yeah, it really was. And I feel bad for the guy losing his job, even though he was never officially a suspect. Like, so yeah, that's the whole case of Blair Adams, Canadian who ended up dead in Knoxville, Tennessee, after going through this whole erratic ride. Yeah. What I love is that he tried 3 times to get over the border, and it was on that 3rd attempt that he managed to get over. But there was also the possibility that he did it that he had done it a 4th time trying to get over the border, because they still didn't rule him out as the complete suspect of the guy who stole the car to try and get across. Like, I just see him like showing up at the border and being like, you know how I'm gonna get across? I'm gonna steal somebody's fucking car.
Yeah, that's obviously the best course of
get out of the fucking car.
He was filled with such great ideas.
They believe that he might have been schizophrenic and that it just kind of kicked in, but like I said, there was no alcohol or booze in his system, even though he was a recovering addict. So at first that was a huge speculation, was what if he was drunk, what if he was on drugs or whatever. No, he was completely clean.
He definitely had enough paranoia for it to be schizophrenia.
Yeah, and it does kind of kick in because he was only like in his 30s, so it does kind of kick in around that time of your life, and
yeah,
he was completely paranoid that people were trying to kill him. Apparently, somebody was. So,
or maybe it was an accident. Who knows?
Yeah,
but not quite an accident.
So a lot of, but like a lot of the detectives, like in a lot of the articles that I pieced together with this, because I literally went through like massive amounts of articles for not even just like Canada and the US, but I actually even looked up, like, there are some articles in Germany because of the link there that came up. So I even like looked through translated articles of that, which didn't have much, but all the articles all pointed towards like how the investigators and stuff like that kind of have like these ideas that some are torn where they think maybe he was hit by a car and that's what caused all these injuries. Like his cut on his forehead was from the bumper of the car or something, and then other ones believe that no, it's very possible that he was just beat down by a club or crowbar. I personally kind of go on the whole thing of maybe he was just a victim of some sort of like random serial killer that we don't know. Like,
I don't think it's really that sophisticated. I think he might have just pissed someone off, got in a fight, and then went in the wrong place.
But what's so weird about it is the fact that they didn't rob him, but then the sexual assault thing, even though it's not completely confirmed, like, officials are really...
Pretty bizarre.
Yeah, they're pretty well, like, they're like 99% sure that he was sexually assaulted. Like, so it, like, if he was just, like, unless the guy who killed him, like, got into the fight with him, just got so mad and ramped up. But, like...
That can't be how that works.
Was he Mayan? What? Like...
I get your energy by doing this.
Did you ever hear about that with Mayans or I think
No.
it's either Mayans or Aztecs? They would actually like, and you know what? This might be even wrong, and I just misheard it from somewhere. But like, they used to, they would lie in wait for enemies and stuff, and they would like jerk off while they were waiting to get the adrenaline of it. And at the moment of climax, they would come out and attack. It will come out being a hilarious.
No.
Unintentional pun.
Like I could see that being an Aztec or a Mayan thing. Aztecs were very much, but Aztecs weren't very big on actually killing their enemies. They believed in capturing, and if you capture, the stronger the enemies you captured, like the enemy warriors you captured, or the bigger the group of enemy warriors you captured, the higher your status was in nobility for Aztecs.
Oh, okay. In which case it was possibly the Mayans.
Yeah.
Maybe the Incans.
Because Aztecs are very, very big on collecting as many people as possible for human sacrifices, because they believed that there was a debt between there was a blood debt between the gods and humans, and in order to keep the balance, they had to keep giving blood back to their gods.
Yeah. Well, that weird stuff aside.
Yeah. There's a whole episode I can do on Aztecs, so...
But, yeah, actually, you know, considering that they had no DNA evidence on his body, but he was penetrated, could it be that the woman happened upon the rape, and that's why the guy got caught, so he ran off, and then that's where the scream came from?
That's very possible. She might have seen like this whole beatdown or whatever. But what else? And that's the whole thing too. He might have actually been like raped, and the guy may have been wanting to go rob him, and then, like you said, that woman, the passerby comes across it. Now he's got a bail, and he just leaves everything behind.
The part that I'm getting at is that there was no semen.
Yeah.
Which means the guy never finished.
Or he was in a condom.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that
It's 1996. Like...
It's a pretty, least I could do thing for a raper to do.
Yeah, that's what I think too, is like... But if he knocked him with the crowbar after fighting him down, and then hit him with the crowbar, and then had him down on the ground, then was in the middle of this, or raped him while he was dying from this septic shock, he might have time, right? But it's this weird how it all kind of comes together kind of thing, like...
Oh, yeah.
God, this gets weirder and...
more mysterious as it goes, right?
I was going to say more hilarious as we talk about it.
Yeah.
So maybe we should end it there. But that was actually a really interesting one, especially because I did not know where it was going.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I first heard this story, I was like, what is happening? And like, he bought this ticket, and it's funny because a lot of the original like stories that I heard about it a few years ago never mentioned that he refunded the ticket.
Really?
Yeah, and then as I was reading through all these different articles, almost every article mentioned that he refunded the ticket. Or there was one article that Wikipedia links to, but Wikipedia is not exactly the most reliable, that stated that he actually turned the ticket in Seattle and used the credit from it to purchase a ticket to Washington, D.C. But then all the other articles mentioned that it would have been cheaper, and he spent $800 getting to, like, Washington, D.C. So... that whole thing is just kind of up in the air.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a kooky case.
Yeah.
Actually, the best way I can describe it.
And again, nobody knows where he was headed. So he ended up in Knoxville, Tennessee, but if he hadn't gotten this whole key debacle happening, where would he have gone?
Mm.
Like, his mom believes the Olympics, because apparently he had spoken about the Olympics at some point, but who knows?
Speculation for a person who doesn't really recognize his own perception.
Yeah, and I will say that Olympics was the Centennial Olympics, but is it really worth quitting your job and then doing all these different flights? And the fact that he kept talking about somebody coming after him, like...
It felt more like he was running.
Yeah.
His preoccupation was not with priorities you necessarily recognize, which runs with paranoid delusions.
And
making this predictable is kind of impossible.
And the almost an hour of him in and out of the hotel, basically knowing he's stranded and being like, oh, well, maybe I gotta, maybe I'll just go over here and rent another car or whatever, but then realizing that all the car rental places are closed because it's 5:30. At this point, it's 7 o'clock. So... And then being like, well, I could get a room, but maybe they'll track me down at this room and all this. Like, It's so weird. And the fact that he booked out of there without getting his change, like...
Yeah, honestly.
I wonder what he thought he saw.
Either that
or
it's
panic.
Or either that or it's just the paranoia of something that's there that isn't type of thing. Like he's
That's what I mean, like what he thought he saw.
No, he might not have even saw anything. He's just probably going back and forth, thinking about it, and then he's like, I'm finally going to buy it, but because this is what I need to do, but oh god, no, I can't.
Yeah.
So, and then he left his vehicle and everything behind, really.
Yeah.
It's... Although, no, he doesn't have a problem swapping vehicles. Like, that wasn't possession. But he kept all his...
Stop laughing!
I just thought about that whole thing falling apart in Canadian.
Take.
But yeah, he did abandon his own vehicle at the Vancouver International Airport, then abandoned the rental car at the Seattle airport, and then had that Camry and drove it from the Washington, D.C. airport all the way to Knoxville, Tennessee, and even had gotten into an accident with it. Like, it's just so weird. He was headed somewhere for frickin' sure. Like, he had a mission. And that whole buying tickets and then refunding them, that seems like a covering your tracks kind of thing, because then, like, oh, well, he bought this ticket, and yeah, it was refunded, but that's harder to track down than it is to know that you purchased the ticket kind of thing. Like,
it's worth noting, people driven by fear without a set purpose do behave exactly like that.
And the weird thing, too, is only 2 more articles that I read actually said that he bought another ticket to Frankfurt, Germany in Seattle, and then refunded the ticket about an hour later again.
He changed his mind.
But only 2 of the articles said that. All the other articles never mentioned it. So if that was true, then again, that's a whole thing. He's trying to cover up his tracks. Maybe he even thought, you know what, maybe it's crazy. Maybe I should just go to Germany.
I think you're putting too much planning on this. I think he's just, like J Wes said, changing his mind a lot and does not have a set priority, but is moving with an urgency that does not reflect.
Well, that's true. That's true too, because he drove 800 kilometers away from Washington, D.C. And he was in Virginia at one point, then Tennessee, and I'm not completely certain on how that all works properly together, and if you would need to go through Virginia to get to Tennessee.
It's not the quickest way.
Yeah, so 7 hours of driving for this to end up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I think there's a more straight route to there, but I could be wrong.
You could have just taken a flight there.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of different ways to do this, and none of this is really straightforward. It reeks of someone who's constantly changing their mind.
And what's weird, too, is that it kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, Israel Keys and how he would, like, fly somewhere and buy other tickets to fly elsewhere and then drive rental cars thousands of miles away just to...
But that's deliberately obfuscated.
Yeah, but this is what I mean, is this is another thing where he's just abandoning cars, so maybe he's changing his mind. And
Israel Keys made parallel paths.
Yes.
Whereas this guy just keeps changing his mind. It's all consecutive.
Yeah, so
I don't think there is a plan.
But this is what I mean, is maybe it is part of a cover-up. Maybe it is that he just can't make up his mind. Maybe in his paranoia, he's being indecisive and then kind of coming up with this plan in his head that, like, well, if I go here, if I don't know where I'm going, then they can't find me.
That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is, there's no concrete plan, but there is an urgency. To put, like, an overarching plan on this that makes sense is impossible.
Yeah.
This is a really stupid way to do something.
And this is what I mean. He was never diagnosed with schizophrenia, but this is very paranoid schizophrenic behavior. Like,
also, if it's sudden, like, how long does it take to get a diagnosis like that?
I don't know, but the onset can be really, really quick too.
It's quite rapid.
Yeah.
Well, that was a hell of a conversation that just happened there. Holy shit. You guys left me behind, so I'm here to end the show.
All right.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review.
Wait for a second. Oh, God.
Check your pockets for keys.
Check your pockets for keys, diddle a butthole. It doesn't matter. Point is...
Good weekend.
Yeah, good weekend. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BAChaosJar. Yet again, you can follow me on Twitter at I'mGladYouAsked_. And you can also follow us on Facebook at Pandora's Jar Podcast. And you can patronize us at patreon.com/chaosjar. Where you can also watch early episodes, not early episodes. Is it early episodes?
Yeah, you get early access to it, and then a month later it comes out.
Early access to our bonus episodes. Plus, check out our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel now. It's a YouTube channel. It's nothing really special. You just can watch things. You can watch a picture of us talking. Yeah!
Eventually, we'll have a camera set up, and you'll be able to see all the craziness that happens, like when J Wes destroys his desk.
and it breaks in Canadian.
And then what we'll do is we'll upload a video of him fixing it while making Canadian.
All right. You guys have a good night.